Most people believe becoming a millionaire requires a miracle, a high-risk gamble, or a life lived far outside the ordinary. But the truth is far simpler. You can build extraordinary wealth while working an ordinary 9 to 5, if you learn to think and act differently than the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your moment to pause, reflect, and reconsider the life you are building. I'd like to talk to you today about a subject that has puzzled many, discouraged some, and inspired a few to greatness: how to become a millionaire while working a simple, honest 9 to 5. You see, we have long lived with the illusion that extraordinary wealth requires extraordinary circumstances. But history and experience teach a different lesson. The greatest fortunes have seldom begun with extraordinary resources. They began with ordinary people who learned to think in exceptional ways. They learned the invaluable truth that the mind is the workshop of every destiny. Your income, whatever it may be today, is not a verdict on your future. It is merely the starting material from which you may build whatever life you choose. In fact, the typical salary is one of the most misunderstood blessings in modern civilization. It is predictable, dependable, and steady, three qualities that give you the power to plan, to build, and to grow. The problem is not the size of the income, but the size of the vision guiding it. Most people spend every dollar as quickly as it comes, trading tomorrow for momentary comfort. But the individual who understands the laws of success sees each paycheck as a seed, not a reward. There is a truth I'd like you to remember, one that has shaped countless lives. We become rich not by what we earn, but by what we keep, what we invest, and who we become in the process. If you will save a portion of every dollar, however small, you begin to separate yourself from the masses. Saving is not merely an act of finance, it is an act of self-respect. It is the quiet declaration that you believe in your future more than your impulses, and once you save, you must invest. For money saved will protect you, but money invested will multiply for you. Through simple, consistent contributions to index funds, retirement accounts, or income-producing assets, the modest worker may build a fortune that surprises even those who once doubted. But wealth is never built by saving alone. Your greatest asset is the one looking back at you in the mirror. When you learn new skills, improve your craft, and increase the value you bring to the world, your income grows accordingly. You rise not because of luck or favoritism, but because you have become the kind of person whose contribution is worth more. And remember this, the millionaire mind is not shaped by extravagance but by discipline. Live below your means not out of fear, but out of intention. Every dollar you do not waste becomes a worker in your growing army of wealth. Over time, that army becomes unstoppable. As you grow, choose your environment with care. Surround yourself with those who think in terms of opportunity, responsibility, and growth. The mind absorbs the attitudes of those around it, and no fortune can flourish in a negative environment. Above all, use your time wisely. The 9 to 5 worker who dedicates just one focused hour each day to financial education, personal development, or skill building will, over the span of years, outperform the one who relies solely on effort. My friend, the life you seek is not distant, it is waiting. Wealth does not belong only to the gifted or the lucky. It belongs to the disciplined, the thoughtful, and the determined. Wealth begins in the mind long before it ever appears in the bank account, and this simple idea has shaped more destinies than any change in circumstance or stroke of luck. Most people believe money is something pursued in the outer world, earned through long hours, fortunate breaks, or special opportunities. Yet the truth is far more subtle and infinitely more empowering. We attract and accumulate wealth in direct proportion to the thoughts we hold, the beliefs we cultivate, and the image we carry of what is possible for our lives. A person with a mind trained toward poverty will remain impoverished no matter how high their income may rise, while the one who thinks in terms of abundance will find ways to grow even from the humblest beginnings. For the mind is the architect of every future, and what we consistently think about, we inevitably move toward. You see, every great achievement in finance, in career, in relationships, first took shape as an idea. Someone imagined a better way of living and then set out to make that picture a reality. Yet most people never allow themselves this privilege. They accept their circumstances as fixed, their salary as fate, and their prospects as predetermined. They look out at the world and assume that what they see is all there is. But the individual who understands the quiet power of thought knows that what we see is merely the result of what has already been created. What will be created next begins in the silent spaces of the mind where imagination takes root. If you wish to build wealth, You must begin not with your wallet, but with your thinking. Replace the idea that you are limited by your job, your background, or the size of your paycheck with the understanding that your mind is capable of generating ideas that can transform your entire financial future. A single habit, a new skill, a well-considered investment, a creative solution to an old problem. These are born not in the world, but in thought. And once an idea is accepted as possible, it begins to reshape your actions, your habits, and the opportunities you recognize. You begin to see possibilities where others see obstacles. You begin to act with intention rather than drift with routine. You begin to become the kind of person to whom wealth naturally gravitates. Most people think in terms of scarcity because they have been taught to. They repeat what they hear. There isn't enough. Money is hard to come by. People like us don't get ahead. And without realizing it, they plant these beliefs deep within themselves. These thoughts become invisible barriers, unseen walls that keep them locked in place. But the moment you choose to replace these beliefs with thoughts of abundance, growth, and capability, the walls begin to crumble. You rise not because the world changes, but because your perception of it does. And that change in perception is the first step toward every fortune ever built. Understand this: wealth is a byproduct of a disciplined, directed, and expansive mind. A mind that sees opportunity, a mind that seeks growth, a mind that believes it is worthy of success. Long before money accumulates in your accounts, it must accumulate in your thoughts, and once it does, the rest becomes not only possible, but inevitable. A 9-to-5 salary is a tool, not a limitation, and how you use it determines your destiny far more than its size ever could. Most people view their job as the boundary of their financial potential, as though the number printed on their paycheck is a verdict on their future. They behave as if their income is a cage. But those who understand the deeper laws of success see it differently. They recognize that a steady salary, no matter its amount, is a foundation upon which something extraordinary can be built. It provides consistency, predictability, and a platform for disciplined action. It is not the ceiling, it is the floor. The same paycheck that traps one person in mediocrity becomes the launching pad for another who understands its real purpose. The habit of thinking of money only as something to be spent is one of the great tragedies of our modern age. Every dollar that passes through your hands is a servant waiting to be given a task. If all you do is dismiss it the moment it arrives, sending it out to pay for comforts, conveniences, and passing pleasures, you gain nothing from it beyond a brief sense of relief or satisfaction. But when you treat your income as a resource to be directed, you begin to build. You begin to create. You begin to command your financial life rather than react to it. A salary is a tool precisely because it gives you the power to decide what part of it will serve today and what part of it will build your tomorrow. Most individuals believe their income determines their lifestyle. But the truth is simpler and far more empowering. Their choices do. Two people earning the same amount can live entirely different financial lives simply because one sees the paycheck as an instruction to consume, while the other sees it as an opportunity to grow. The former works at a job, the latter works toward a purpose. And this distinction, invisible to the eye but unmistakable in its results, is what separates those who remain in the same place year after year from those who quietly, steadily climb to greater heights. Consider this: a predictable salary gives you the ability to form predictable habits. You know what will come in, so you can determine what will go out. You can carve out a portion for saving, another for investing, and another for improving your skills. You can use a piece of today's income to increase tomorrow's income. This is the simple arithmetic of progress, available to anyone who chooses it. The paycheck that others see as too small or too fixed becomes in your hands the raw material out of which you shape a better life. The 9-to-5 worker who understands this principle never feels confined. They feel equipped, because they know that wealth is not created by the size of the income, but by the wisdom of the individual who receives it. A job may determine how your money arrives, but only you determine where it goes, what it grows into, and who you become as a result. If you treat your salary as a tool, sharpened by discipline, guided by vision, and used with purpose, you transform it into something far greater than a wage. It becomes a builder, a partner, and eventually the quiet architect of your financial freedom. The habit of saving transforms small earnings into large opportunities, and this simple discipline has changed more lives than sudden wealth or unexpected windfalls ever could. Most people imagine that saving is something to be done only when the income is large enough, when the conditions are perfect, or when life finally becomes comfortable. Yet the ones who rise, the ones who build meaningful wealth, understand that saving is not about the amount, it is about the principle. It is the quiet, consistent decision to set aside a portion of what you earn, no matter how modest, as a declaration of faith in your own future. For saving is not merely a financial act, it is a psychological shift. It is the moment you begin to treat your future self with respect. Every fortune, no matter how grand it may appear today, began with a single act of restraint. Someone somewhere decided that they would live on slightly less than they earned. They understood that every dollar saved is a seed, and seeds do not grow into trees overnight. They require patience, protection, and time. But once they take root, they produce fruit year after year, long after the initial effort is forgotten. This is the profound, understated beauty of saving. It allows time to work for you instead of against you. Most people, however, remain trapped in the cycle of consumption. As their income grows, their desires grow faster. They chase comfort, convenience, and status with a fervor that leaves them no better off than before. Their lives become a reflection of their impulses rather than their intentions. But the individual who saves consistently, even lightly, steps out of this cycle. They separate themselves from the masses not by earning more, but by thinking differently. They understand that money saved is freedom earned, freedom from worry, freedom from dependency, freedom to seize opportunities when they appear. For opportunities do not often wait for the unprepared. They present themselves quietly and disappear quickly, revealing their value only to those who have the means to respond. When you save, you give yourself the ability to act when others can only watch. A discounted investment, a piece of land, a new venture, or a rising market, these become doors that open only to those who have something set aside. And what begins as a small reserve grows into a powerful advantage, one that compounds not just financially but psychologically. Because nothing builds confidence quite like knowing you have resources to rely on. There is another truth hidden in the practice of saving. It strengthens character. It trains discipline, it sharpens foresight, and it replaces impulsiveness with intention. You begin to see money not as something to burn through, but as something to direct. You develop the rare quality of delayed gratification, and with it comes a level of maturity that spills into every aspect of your life. You make wiser decisions, choose better opportunities, and refuse to chase the temporary at the cost of the meaningful. Saving is not meant to be dramatic. It is quiet, steady, and almost invisible in its early stages. But over time it becomes a force. It builds momentum. And one day, without fanfare or applause, you discover that what once felt small has grown into something substantial, something that empowers you, supports you, and opens doors you once believed were closed forever. Consistent investing multiplies your money even while you sleep. And this simple truth is one of the greatest advantages ever given to the working individual. Most people believe that wealth grows only through strenuous effort, long hours, and constant struggle. Yet the world quietly rewards those who understand that money, when properly directed, becomes a tireless worker, one that requires no food, no rest, no supervision. It simply continues, day and night, compounding and increasing with a patience and reliability that no human effort could ever match. The average person spends a lifetime trading hours for dollars, unaware that their dollars could be working alongside them, creating a second income stream that grows silently in the background. You see, investing is not an act reserved for the wealthy or the financially gifted. It is a discipline available to anyone willing to think beyond the present moment. The moment you place even a small portion of your earnings into an investment, whether it be an index fund, a retirement account, or a carefully chosen asset, you have set into motion a principle that has built empires and transformed ordinary incomes into extraordinary fortunes. The principle is compound growth, the quiet mathematician that turns consistency into abundance. Most people underestimate it because it works slowly at first, almost imperceptibly. But years later, they see others, people no more intelligent, no more skilled, living with financial ease, and they wonder what secret they missed. The secret was simply that someone else began early and continued faithfully. Investing teaches a lesson that every successful person eventually learns. Time is either your ally or your adversary. Those who delay, who wait for the right moment, or who believe investing requires large sums of money, discover too late that time cannot be reclaimed. But those who start small, start early, and remain consistent harness the multiplier effect that rewards patience more than brilliance. It is not the exceptional investment that makes the difference, but the ordinary investment held for an extraordinary amount of time. Most individuals live under the belief that their job is their only source of income. But the truth is that investing allows your money to earn alongside you. Every dollar invested becomes an employee in your personal financial enterprise. While you work your 9 to 5, your investments work a 24-hour shift. While you rest, they grow. And while the world changes, your disciplined habit of investing remains a constant force, steadily increasing your wealth regardless of circumstances. Beyond the financial benefits, investing shapes the mind into something rare. It encourages long-term thinking in a world obsessed with the immediate. It teaches patience, foresight, and emotional stability. It reminds you that success is the result of disciplined action taken over time, not dramatic gestures made in moments of inspiration. And as your investments grow, so does your sense of confidence. You begin to trust yourself, to trust the process, and to trust the undeniable truth that small actions, when repeated, create enormous results. Consistent investing is not about predicting markets or chasing trends. It is about alignment. Aligning your behavior with the natural laws of growth, aligning your money with your future, and aligning your daily choices with the life you wish to build. It is a quiet, steady commitment to a vision of abundance, made one contribution at a time, until one day you look back and realize that what began as small, humble steps has become a fortune that works tirelessly on your behalf. Skill development increases earning power more than any job title ever will, and this is a truth often overlooked by the very people who need it most. In every workplace, in every industry, you'll find individuals waiting for someone else to grant them a raise, to recognize their value, or to open a door of opportunity. They wait for permission to advance. Yet the ones who truly rise understand that no title, no position, and no employer can ever match the power of a person who deliberately grows their skills. A title may place you in a role, but skill elevates you beyond it. Skill transforms you from replaceable to remarkable, from unnoticed to indispensable, from ordinary to exceptional. When you develop your skills, you are increasing the value you bring to the world, and the world always pays in proportion to the value it receives. Not sometimes, not occasionally, but inevitably. A person who learns continuously cannot remain in the same financial position for long. They expand their capability, and with it, their earning potential. In time, they outgrow their current environment, and new opportunities begin to appear. Opportunities that remained invisible only because they did not yet possess the capacity to recognize or seize them. Skill development is not about learning for the sake of learning. It is about shaping yourself into someone who naturally attracts advancement. Most people rely on experience alone to move forward. They assume that time spent doing something is the same as becoming better at it. But time by itself does nothing. A decade of repetition is not growth, it is merely familiarity. True development comes from intentional improvement, seeking new knowledge, practicing new techniques, and exposing yourself to new ideas. When you decide to grow deliberately, you activate a force within yourself that compels progress. You begin to see connections others miss, solve problems others avoid, and contribute solutions others cannot imagine. The person who invests in skill becomes a person of increasing value. What's more, developing your skills broadens your sense of possibility. The more you learn, the more confident you become in your ability to adapt, to create, and to overcome. You realize that success is not reserved for a select few. It is available to anyone willing to sharpen their abilities. This mindset alone can transform a career, for confidence changes the way you walk, the way you speak, and the way you present yourself to the world. And people respond to it. Employers notice it. Opportunities gravitate toward it. There is another quiet benefit to skill development, one that may be even more important than financial gain. As you build your capabilities, you begin to take ownership of your life. You stop waiting for someone else to determine your worth. You stop hoping for a breakthrough and begin creating one. Your sense of agency grows. You understand that you are not limited by your current role, your current salary, or your current circumstances. You are limited only by the extent to which you're willing to grow. A person who develops valuable skills becomes mobile, capable of shifting industries, starting businesses, solving problems, and creating value wherever they go. No economic downturn can take that away, no employer can diminish it, no setback can erase it. Skills give you freedoms. Freedom to earn more, to choose better opportunities, and to rise as far as your discipline will take you. Living below your means is not deprivation. It is the foundation of financial freedom, and this single understanding has shaped more prosperous lives than sudden wealth or fortunate breaks ever have. Most people recoil at the idea, imagining that it requires sacrifice, discomfort, or the denial of life's pleasures. Yet the truth is far gentler, far wiser. Living below your means simply means choosing intention over impulse, purpose over indulgence, and long-term peace over short-term satisfaction. It is the art of creating space for saving, space for investing, space for growth. And in that space, wealth begins to form. Many individuals increase their income only to increase their expenses in equal measure. They rise in earnings but remain stagnant in progress. The new job, the raise, the bonus, these become invitations for higher consumption, not greater stability. They move into larger homes, drive newer cars, and acquire gadgets and luxuries that impress others but enslave themselves. Their income rises, but so does their dependence on it, until they find themselves trapped in a lifestyle that demands more than it gives. This is the silent treadmill of modern living, and it is only escaped by the one who understands the quiet strength of moderation. Living below your means does not mean refusing comfort, it means refusing waste. It means recognizing that every dollar not spent is a dollar that can go to work for you. It becomes a seed that, when planted wisely, grows into opportunity, security, and freedom. You discover that having less clutter leads to more clarity, that wanting less leads to feeling more grateful, and that spending intentionally leads to living more consciously. The person who lives below their means is not poor. They are prepared. There is a kind of dignity in this way of living. It teaches restraint in a world that celebrates excess. It builds discipline in a culture driven by impulse. It gives you the rare ability to say no to the unnecessary so you may say yes to what truly matters. You begin to see money not as a tool for display, but as a tool for building, and this shift, subtle but profound, quietly separates you from the masses. While others chase the appearance of wealth, you build the substance of it. What most people overlook is the emotional freedom that emerges from living below your means. When you are not burdened by debt, not stretched by expenses, not pressured by monthly obligations, you gain a sense of calm that few experience. You are no longer at the mercy of your paycheck. You are no longer forced to make decisions out of fear or urgency. You move through life with a lighter step, knowing that you have control over your finances rather than your finances having control over you. And because you spend less than you earn, you free up resources to invest in your future. You create a cushion for emergencies, a reserve for opportunities, and a foundation for wealth. Your money begins to accumulate, slowly at first, but undeniably. You begin to experience progress not through outward displays, but through inward strength. You realize that true wealth is not measured by what you buy, but by what you keep and what you grow. Living below your means is not an act of restriction, it is an act of empowerment. It is the deliberate decision to build a life that is stable, resilient, and abundant, not someday, but steadily, quietly, day by day. Every person becomes wealthy in proportion to the value they create, and this is one of the most reliable, unchanging principles in all of human progress. It cuts through every era, every industry, every economic climate. People may search for shortcuts, secrets, or hidden pathways to riches, but the truth stands quietly in plain sight. Money flows toward value, it always has and it always will. When you understand this, you stop chasing money and begin cultivating the one thing that inevitably attracts it: your ability to solve problems, meet needs, and enrich the lives of others. Wealth is not a reward for effort alone, it is a reflection of contribution. You see, most individuals focus on doing the minimum required, delivering just enough to keep their position secure. They believe that simply showing up, completing tasks, and following instructions should be enough to earn advancement. But the world does not reward adequacy. It rewards excellence. It rewards creativity. It rewards the person who goes beyond what is asked and delivers what is needed. The more valuable you become, the more indispensable you appear, and the more indispensable you become, the more the world insists on paying you in proportion to your contribution. Value is created in many ways. Sometimes it is the thoughtful idea that saves a company time or money. Sometimes it is the willingness to master a skill others find difficult. Sometimes it is the quiet reliability of someone who can be trusted in moments of uncertainty. And sometimes it is the courage to innovate, to initiate, or to take responsibility. You do not need brilliance to create value, you need intention. You need awareness. You need the desire to leave everything you touch better than you found it. Over time, this consistent improvement compounds just as money does, until your contribution becomes impossible to ignore. The interesting thing about value is that it is magnified by rarity. When you develop qualities that are uncommon, discipline, resilience, attention to detail, emotional intelligence, the ability to communicate clearly, you set yourself apart from the vast majority of people who move through life without those traits. And because what is scarce is more valuable, the world responds accordingly. Opportunities that once seemed distant begin to move toward you. People begin to seek your input, your skills, your presence. Income follows not because you demand it, but because you have become the kind of person for whom higher compensation is a natural reflection. And here lies a profound truth: when you focus on creating value, you stop worrying about competition. You realize that your financial success is not limited by the success of others. There is no shortage of opportunity for the person who consistently contributes more than they consume. Instead of asking why others earn more, you begin asking how you can become more useful, more knowledgeable, more capable. And as you grow, life expands around you. The gap between your old circumstances and new possibilities widens until you can no longer return to the level at which you once operated. The creation of value also elevates your sense of purpose. Work becomes more than a means of earning a living, it becomes a means of building yourself. You begin to take pride in the quality of what you produce, and that pride infects every part of your life. You find satisfaction in doing things well. You discover confidence in knowing that you can contribute in meaningful ways. And this confidence, this competence becomes the silent engine behind every financial gain you make. In the end, wealth is not something you chase. It is something you attract by becoming valuable. By improving your skills, elevating your mindset, and expanding your capacity to serve. The more you give to the world in value, the more the world returns to you in kind, often in greater measure than you ever expected. Environment shapes behavior, and surrounding yourself with financial thinkers has a greater impact on your life than most people ever realize. Human beings are influence creatures. We absorb attitudes, beliefs, habits, and expectations from the people around us, often without awareness. Spend enough time with those who complain, and you begin to complain. Spend enough time with those who fear the future, and you begin to fear it. But place yourself among those who think constructively about money, growth, opportunity, and discipline, and you begin to adopt their worldview. This is not imitation, it is transformation. The mind naturally conforms to the climate in which it lives. Many individuals unknowingly limit themselves by staying in environments that reinforce scarcity thinking. They discuss what can't be done, worry about what might go wrong, and see money as something elusive or unfairly distributed. In such surroundings, even the most ambitious soul can begin to shrink. The potential is still there, but it is smothered by doubt, by negativity, by the subtle discouragement of those who never learn to see beyond their immediate circumstances. And so a person who might have created great value, built wealth, or risen to new heights remains tethered to the mindset of their surroundings. But when you deliberately choose a different environment, something remarkable begins to happen. You start meeting people who speak of ideas instead of obstacles, who think in terms of long horizons instead of short-term comforts, who discuss investments, skills, and disciplined habits instead of gossip, distractions, and limitations. Their conversations spark new insights. Their habits challenge your complacency. Their ambitions quiet your fears. Gradually, your internal world reshapes itself to match the possibilities you see reflected in others. This does not mean abandoning people, but elevating your influences. Read the books written by great thinkers. Listen to voices that challenge you to grow. Spend time with those who take responsibility for their lives. Observe how financially wise individuals behave, how they plan, how they save, how they invest, how they speak about the future. Notice the calmness that comes from preparation and the confidence that comes from competence. These qualities are contagious. Your environment is the silent partner in your success. It nudges you, shapes you, directs you, and determines whether you rise or remain where you are. When you step into an environment where growth is the norm, wealth is the expectation, and discipline is admired, you begin to absorb the very traits that lead to financial freedom. And before long, you discover that the greatest change was not in your conditions, but in yourself. In every life, there comes a moment when a person realizes that the distance between where they stand and where they wish to be is not measured in miles, years, or talent, but in the quiet, invisible discipline of shaping one's own inner world. Keynote 9 is the reminder that the greatest breakthroughs come when an individual stops asking the world for permission and starts giving themselves the authority to direct their thoughts, their emotions, and their habits toward the life they envision. Most people wait for conditions to improve. They wait for confidence, for clarity, for motivation. Yet the truth that has echoed through every age is that conditions improve only when the individual improves, confidence grows only when decisions are made, and clarity arrives only when action is taken. The mind is the workshop where every outcome is forged long before it appears in the physical world. When a person understands this, they begin to operate from a higher vantage point. They stop reacting to life and instead start orchestrating it. Each thought becomes a seed, and each seed carries within it the potential to shift the trajectory of an entire life. But seeds do not grow simply because they exist. They grow when disciplined attention nurtures them. The disciplined mind does not entertain the doubts that seek refuge in idle hours. It does not indulge in worry, fear, or imaginary failures. Instead, it turns consciously, deliberately, and repeatedly toward the picture of the life it desires. It is this repetition, this steady refining of focus, that separates the rare achiever from the ordinary dreamer. The individual who lives by this principle discovers something extraordinary. Life becomes malleable. Circumstances lose their power, opinions of others fade into unimportance, and opportunities begin to appear where previously only obstacles were seen. Because once the mind is aligned with a dominant purpose, it begins to organize everything, choices, behaviors, even the environment, around that purpose. This is not magic, nor is it luck. It is the natural unfolding of a mind that has taken full responsibility for its direction. And with each day of practiced discipline, the person feels a shift within themselves, a quiet calm, a growing certainty, an inner authority that needs no validation. For the only true validation a person ever needs is the knowledge that they are living from intention rather than impulse, from vision rather than circumstance, from strength rather than fear. Wealth grows fastest when aligned with purpose and discipline, and this principle separates those who stumble through life from those who quietly, steadily, achieve greatness. Most people chase money as if it were an end in itself, measuring success by the size of a paycheck or the accumulation of possessions. Yet those who achieve lasting prosperity understand that money is never the destination. It is the natural byproduct of purpose-driven action combined with consistent, disciplined effort. Without purpose, effort is scattered. Without discipline, vision fades. Together, they become the engine that drives both financial and personal growth. Purpose is the compass. It gives direction to every decision, focus to every action, and meaning to every effort. Without it, one may work long hours, acquire skills, and save diligently, yet find themselves frustrated, adrift, or unsatisfied. When you define your purpose, however, every task, every challenge, and every setback takes on significance. It is no longer about earning for today or spending for comfort. It becomes about building towards something greater. And when your financial actions are aligned with that purpose, when your saving, investing, and skill building all serve a vision larger than the immediate, you create momentum that cannot be easily disrupted. Discipline is the engine that sustains momentum over time. Purpose alone inspires, but it is discipline that executes. Discipline allows you to resist the temptations of impulse, to make choices that favor the long term over the immediate, and to act consistently even when motivation wanes. A person with purpose but without discipline may dream vividly, but their wealth remains a distant idea. A person with discipline but no purpose may work tirelessly yet wander aimlessly. When the two converge, however, action is no longer random, it becomes precise, measured, and directed. Those who understand this alignment also realize that small, repeated actions compound into enormous results. Each dollar saved, each skill learned, each habit improved contributes to a larger whole. Money is multiplied, opportunities expand, and personal growth accelerates, all because every action is a deliberate contribution toward a clearly defined end. The combination of purpose and discipline creates a gravitational pull, attracting resources, relationships, and situations that reinforce the vision. Life begins to conform to the framework you have constructed, and success is no longer a matter of luck or circumstance. It becomes a natural outcome of living intentionally. This principle reminds us that wealth is not merely accumulated, it is cultivated, nurtured, and harvested through a life directed by meaning and sustained by consistency. Those who grasp this truth act not out of chance but with clarity. They understand that fortune favors the prepared, the focused, and the persistent, and they position themselves so that every choice, every hour, and every resource serves the larger purpose they have chosen to pursue.